Welcome to Lesson 1 in Learning Unit 4, Standards and Characterization of Functional and Smart Textiles. This lesson is part of the Mooc on Advanced Textiles Manufacturing Industry, prepared in the frame of the Hacktex project. The lesson is entitled, Standards and Regulations for Smart Textiles. It discusses the basic concepts of standardization, applicable for smart textiles. In this lesson, you will learn about the need for standardization in the field of smart textiles. Organizations involved in developing standards and regulations for smart textiles. The existing correlation between the end-use requirements and standards for smart textiles. Chapter 1. The need for standardization in the field of smart textiles. This chapter gives information the basics of standards used in engineering, a general classification of standards, their structure and the life cycle of a standard. Standards. Definition, types of technical standards, life cycle of a technical standard. A standard is a document established by a consensus of subject matter experts and approved by a recognized body that provides guidance on the design, use or performance of materials, products, processes, services, systems or persons. The classification of technical standards has to be multicriterial. Based on their level of acceptance, standards can be voluntary consensus standards, developed by standardization organizations, industry standards, government standards, regulations, directives. Considering their nature, technical standards can be normative or informative. Normative documents are standards that provide rules, guidelines or characteristics for activities or their results. Technical specifications precede a standard, while technical reports are informative documents providing information on different subjects. All standards have a typical denomination which contains initials of the organizations adopting the standard. Number of the standard, followed by the year when the standard was adopted. Title of the standard, describing clearly and succinctly the topic. Any modifications or amendments that were issued following its release. All modifications of the standard will be mentioned in the latest variant. Here are some examples of standards not yet modified, modified following several additions and amended and consolidated. Regardless of their domain and issuing organization, all technical standards are organized in a similar manner. As defined by ISO, standards are structured as follows. Scope of the standard. Normative references. Terms and definitions. Specifications for general and specific characteristics. Sampling rules. Annexes and examples. Bibliography. Technical standards are initiated through a proposal that is approved by the technical body of the standardization organization. The content is drafted and then subjected to the approval of those interested in the topic. If not approved, the draft is reformulated and again subjected to the enquiry process. Once approved, a standard is published. After publication, it is revised periodically. The revision can lead to the standard being reconfirmed, replaced by another version, amended or withdrawn. It is therefore important to check to see the status of the respective standard and to use an approved and up-to-date version. The need for standardization in the field of smart textiles. The use of standards and regulations in the field of smart textiles presents significant advantages, detailed on the slide in terms of R&D, manufacturing, trade and product lifecycle. Chapter 2. Organizations involved in developing standards and regulations for smart textiles. This chapter discusses the entities producing standards for the sector. Standards are developed by national, regional and international organizations. International standards are recognized and valid worldwide, while regional standards, as is the case with EU, are valid at European level. National standards are adopted only for the respective country and are written or translated in the respective national language. Each country has a national organization that develops and manages standards, that is connected to organizations that are at regional and international level. This slide provides some examples of European national organizations. Apart from the national organizations for standardization, in Europe there are 3 standardization bodies involved in this process that are of interest. The European Committee for Standardization (CEN), the European Committee for Electrotechnical Standardization (CENELEC) and the European Telecommunication Standards Institute (ETSI). These organizations are mandated by the EU Commission to develop standards for certain domains that use smart textiles. Approximately 20% of the European standards are created following a request, mandate, from the European Commission. Standards are also developed at international level, many organizations collaborating with specialists from universities, research institutes and companies throughout the world. 2 organizations are of interest: International Standard Office ISO and International Electrotechnical Commission IEC. In USA, there are 2 organizations developing standards relevant to the field of textiles in general and smart textiles in particular that have an international reach. ASTM International, former American Society for Testing and Materials, Smart Textiles Subcommittee, and AATCC, Association of American Textile Chemists and Colorists. IPC is an American nonprofit organization for the electronics sector that is developing standards at a global level. These organizations develop standards through technical committees and groups. At EU level, standards for smart textiles are developed by the Technical Committee CEN, TC 248 Textiles and Textile Products, Working Group WG31 Smart Textiles and Electronic Textiles. Other working groups are of interest for smart textiles, as they address controlled functionalities of textiles and other aspects important for the sector. For ISO, standards regarding smart textiles are developed by Technical Committee TC38, Working Group WG32 Smart Textiles. The IEC also has a technical committee involved in standards for e-textiles, TC124 Wearable Electronic Devices and Technologies. ASTM International has the Smart Textiles Subcommittee, and AATCC, Technical Committee RA 111, Electronically Integrated Textiles. Use of common standards is extremely important for ensuring products' results are what they are intended to be for everybody involved in the value chain, as well as customers. For this reason, the European standardization organizations and by consequence the national bodies in the European network propose their own standards or adopt standards proposed by international organizations like ISO and IEC. This process, in which standards are aligned and the redundant ones are eliminated, is called standard harmonization. Harmonized standards have the indicatives of all agencies that adopted them. Another aspect of standard harmonization refers to the domain of use, for which EU directives are adopted. Such directives regulate the development, manufacturing and trade of technical products, including applications for which smart textiles can be used. Standard harmonization is mandatory for medical devices and PPE. An important aspect of regulations concerning certain applications is the need to certify such products. Certification is attested by the CE marking that indicates that a product has been assessed by the manufacturer and deemed to meet EU safety, health and environmental protection requirements. It is required for products manufactured anywhere in the world that are then marketed in the EU. The steps needed by a manufacturer to receive the CE certification are presented in the figure. Certain applications of smart textile products, like PPE and medical products, can require certification. Any company that wants to produce, or import, export, products within the EU must follow the regulations stipulated in the directives and may have to use a certified conformity assessment body, from an official list provided on the EU sites, to verify if the product and/or the manufacturing process is in agreement with EU mandatory requirements. The certification process is important for company management, that will have to ensure the resources so that the proper documentation is registered for the CE marking. Chapter 3. Correlation between the end-use requirements and standards for smart textiles. Smart textiles require the use of standards and implementation of regulations in different stages of their life cycle, from design to manufacturing to use and end of life. The multidisciplinary essence of the domain imposes the use of standards from different sectors, some addressing specific issues for textiles, some from the other fields involved in a particular type of smart product, like electronics or chemistry, and some deal with the manufacturing and performance of the entire product. Each smart textile product has a specific application, most known being health, PPE, sports, automotives, fashion, military. The intended application defines the functions of the product and therefore the requirements imposed on the product design. For the design stage, there are standards establishing guidelines on product specifics and characteristics according to the domain of use. Performance is evaluated at each stage of the product throughout its value chain. For textile materials, these stages are fibers, yarns, materials and the final product. Textile characteristics should be evaluated both for the textile materials and for the materials, products that have integrated non-textile components. Their behavior is expressed in terms of comfort properties, mechanical properties, chemical properties, maintenance, etc. Durability and reliability represent a significant problem for smart textiles and are expressed in terms of how mechanical, chemical and thermal stresses affect the functionality of the materials or products. Washing, dry cleaning is an issue for durability. Smart textiles should also be evaluated for the level of safety they exhibit during use, especially for e-textiles, for which the use of electrical current can become a hazard. Another aspect of smart product performance is the efficiency, showing how efficient is the response under a stimulus, the response uniformity, etc. Non-textile components are evaluated using specific standards, for example, for the electronic parts introduced in the textile materials, in the case of e-textiles, or for paraffins in the microcapsule for PCMs. Another domain subjected to regulations is referring to data privacy and processing, applicable to e-textiles, wearables. Apart from the performance of smart textile materials, products, manufacturing also has to be regulated and controlled. For products that are subjected to EU directives, the manufacturer must ensure that the production processes respect all technical and quality requirements, according to ISO 9000 series for quality management and quality assurance. Depending on what is stipulated, conformity to all requirements is either provided by the manufacturer or by a specialized body, enabled to make the documentation for the CE marking. Summary. The lesson discusses the following notions. Standards and regulations are essential for developing smart textile products, as they impose the norms for the entire value chain, from design to manufacturing to use and to end of life. The organizations involved in developing standards for smart textiles are national, regional, at EU level CEN, CENELEC and ETSI, and international, ISO, ASTM, AATCC, IPC. An important aspect of regulations concerning certain applications is the need to certify such products. Certification is attested by the CE marking. Standards regulate and support the design of smart textiles, the evaluation of their performance, durability, safety, efficiency and their manufacturing.